All right, we're going to finish the criminal rights notes, looking at amendments 5, 6, and 8. All right, so general ideas in this set of notes. We've all seen this. You're innocent until proven guilty. This is an important factor because the burden of proof is on the government, meaning that you don't have to prove that you're innocent. The government has to prove you're guilty. So you think about in a trial, they'll say, you're either guilty or not guilty. It doesn't say guilty or innocent. So that's something that the state or the government is the ones that have to prove whether you're guilty. Again, it's not on you to show you're innocent. It's on them to prove that you are guilty. A couple other general ideas here. Due process. We've seen this or talked about this yesterday. Due process is just the process from being basically charged with something or even arrested or maybe questioned by the police all the way through the judicial system. So it's that entire process from kind of start to finish that we hold as a pretty big deal in the United States. If anywhere you're treated unfairly in that process, that's referred to as going against your due process rights. And then this one here, this idea, ex post facto law, basically that the state can't make a new law to get even with you. So, a good example would be like, let's say you are using synthetic drugs that are legal, and the state wants to arrest you for that, but it's not legal. They can't go in and make a law and then go back and say, oh, yeah, you broke this new law. Same thing kind of works the other way, like let's say recreational marijuana. So California legalized this January 1st, 2018. There's a lot of people, there's thousands of people in California locked up for recreational marijuana. They don't get out of jail just because it's legal now. So basically, when you do something at that time, if it's legal or not legal, that's what's going to matter in the court of law. So again, more due process for the bigger the crime, or I guess the bigger the penalty. So you can see, if you're going to go through the death penalty, you're going to have, preponderance of evidence and more evidence and beyond a reasonable doubt, and then you're going to have more trials versus just being stopped. I mean, you don't have to have a lot of due process just to have a cop have a hunch, that you might be doing something illegal. So again, more process is due to you based on how much penalty you can be receiving. All right, so First Amendment we're going to look at, and we're going to do an activity later that'll look at this a little bit more in depth. So here's the entire amendment, which you guys can pause and read. And some of the important parts I highlighted or made red. Jury can't be tried for the same offense twice. You can't be compelled to be a witness against yourself. And basically this idea, of due process for life, liberty, and property. Eminent domain, property being taken for public use. We're not going to go into much of that because it's not really a criminal rights issue. But a couple of these things here. So you think about why a jury is important. It's made of your peers, so people in your community. They're supposed to be impartial, non-biased. You get a lot better chance of having a fair trial if you have 12 people on a jury rather than just one judge putting down a conviction. Double jeopardy, this idea that you can't be tried for the same crime twice. When you think about this, we've seen movies and people talk about OJ and Casey Anthony and people that's like, oh man, they were totally guilty. Well, if we didn't have this, anybody who's found not guilty would just be tried again and again and again and again and again and again until they're finally found guilty. So this is really to protect people and really to put faith in our judicial system, that they say, you know what, the state had the opportunity, we're going to go with what the verdict they put out. Now, again, if you're going to try for state and federal crime, a good example, Michael Vick, he was breaking state laws and federal laws, so he is tried for the same crime twice, but it's in a different court system. Again, this whole process of taking away your life, your freedom, your property, that there's a system in place, and we'll talk about what it means to plead the fifth, and you hear that or see that in songs and TV. Basically, you can't be forced to incriminate yourself, so you don't have to talk. Famously, O.J. Simpson never went on the trial, never had to be questioned. Again, as a way to protect those that are accused. Again, remember that you are innocent until you are proven guilty, so you don't have to talk if you don't want to. The Sixth Amendment, speedy public trial. Again, more information about an impartial jury. You have to be informed of what you're being accused of, and then you get assistance of lawyer or counsel. So with this, again, courts have generally ruled that you have about 100 days after you're accused before your trial can start. So this isn't something that is to be just dragged on forever. Again, to help those that are accused, you have to be told what you're being arrested for. And that's right in the Sixth Amendment. And then again, the assistance of counsel. So you get a lawyer. You don't have to pay for one if you can't afford one. You may not get the best one if you're not paying for it, but in the Sixth Amendment, you are guaranteed the right to have a lawyer, and that's been decided in the Supreme Court, where they've had criminals that were accused and they weren't given a lawyer, and then they appealed and sued and won, and the Supreme Court has ruled that, yes, you do get a lawyer even if you can't afford one. So, again, the trial has to be open to the public. Again, all part of transparency, so people can see what's going on. 100 days, as I mentioned there, that's what's considered a reasonable amount of time. Impartial juries, you think about, they do a lot of bias checking, make sure you don't have a opinion on the matter one way or the other. I know in big profile cases it take a long time. O.J. Simpson was a famous football player, actor, TV star. To find 12 people that are don't have a opinion one way or the other sometimes is difficult, but it's important. Again, have to be told what you're tried for, and again, some other things on here. The person can order you to testify, give evidence about someone else. So you hear that and see that on TV about a subpoena where you're called to court. Fifth Amendment only goes if you're the one that's tried. You can't be forced to bear witness against yourself, but you can be forced to testify against someone else. We've all seen this on TV. The Miranda warning is basically going through and reading the Fifth and Sixth Amendment. You have the right to remain silent. You do not have to talk. Anything you say, will probably be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. And again, if you don't have one, you'll be given one. So again, this was established in a Supreme Court case, Miranda versus Arizona. This man was not told that he had a lawyer, not told that he didn't have to talk, and basically spilled his guts, and all that evidence was thrown out because he wasn't made aware of his rights. And the last one, again, hopefully doesn't impact too much of us. The Eighth Amendment on excessive bail, fines, cruel and unusual punishment. So bail has to be reasonable, so you can't steal a pack of Skittles and get a $100,000 bail. So this again has to be proportional to the crime. I mean, you murder somebody, you're going to have a multi-million-dollar bail, usually in terms of property or money. So it has to be reasonable. Okay, and why? Again, you are innocent until proven. So yeah, you might be accused of something horrific, but you're still innocent in terms of the law. Again, why? That's the big reason. They can hold you in jail, like if you're suspected of murdering people, they can hold you in jail without bail because you're going to be a danger to the community, or they might think you're going to run away or flee the country. But again, most people get bail, the opportunity to pay bail, again, because you are innocent until you're proven guilty. Okay. The cruel and unusual punishment, again, trying to make sure that you're not tortured is the big thing. That the government isn't using torture to punish people. And then that brings in the question of the death penalty. 31 states have the death penalty. Wisconsin was the first state to completely outlaw the death penalty in 1853. The Supreme Court ruled in 1972 that the death penalty was cruel and unusual, but then they reversed themselves 4 years later, and ever since 1976, we've had death penalties alive and well in the United States. You can see the states in red have the death penalty. Texas leads the country with the most executions since 1976. Different methods that have been used in the United States. Again, some more graphic, and some have been ruled cruel and unusual by different states. Right now, I think the only one that's in use now is the lethal injection. So again, the Supreme Court has ruled that the state and the government can kill you if you're given a fair trial and go through due process. So again, Eighth Amendment, Sixth Amendment, and the Fifth Amendment really set up to protect those that are charged with crimes and seen as innocent before they're proven guilty. So we'll do a little activity to review this and see what you guys think.